resilient society. And what we would like to address today with a very nice group of speakers is to have a dialogue on how we are building the capacities of urban stakeholders to strengthen the resilience of cities from the training of urban managers, decision makers, but also through the participation of communities and citizens into urban planning processes at different scales. So my name is Raphaël Vignol. I'm the program manager at UN Habitat's Capacity Development and Training Unit. And I'm very pleased to moderate this session today. At UN Habitat, I cover everything that's related to capacity building, from the program development, program implementation, development of tools, and also partnership with universities. So looking at the training of future urban professionals, but also the training of urban professionals and urban stakeholders on the job through a variety of projects, approaches, and methodologies that we deliver on the ground. So today, I will start by introducing our list of speakers for this dialogue. We will start with 3 speakers from Nairobi, Kenya, Ms. Joy Mboya and Mr. MK Mbugua, who are both connected from the Go Down Art Center in Nairobi. Welcome to you both. And also we'll have Rehema Kabare, who is a participant of the process that we present to you. So also the voice of the youth and the community involved in the process that we will describe. We will also have Dr. Ye-Young Kim from the Seoul Metropolitan Institute for Lifelong Education. And I'm very pleased to welcome Sarah Öflich, who is actually the director of the Learning Department at the United Cities and Local Government, UCLG. Welcome, Sarah. And we will also have Mr. Nam Sok Ho, the mayor of Yeonsu from the Republic of Korea, and Mrs. Lee Ye-jin, director of the Lifelong Learning Policy in the Republic of Korea as well. So welcome to all of you again. Please let us know if you have the participants who are joining online, if you have any questions in the chat for our speakers. Without further ado, and I'll hope we can push the timing of this meeting so that we can have the time that was allocated to us initially, even though there were some technical issues and we started late. So let me start by asking the first question to our group of speakers. The first question relates to citizen engagement. How can citizens' engagement in citizen neighborhood planning accelerate the localization of SDGs and strengthen lifelong learning for, in the end, urban resilience, right? We all know that participatory processes are key for planning a city that works for everyone. What the friends from the Nairobi Go Down Center will bring to us is their testimonial of their collaboration with UN Habitat in the implementation of the Her City approach. The Her City approach is, actually we do have a toolbox to co-plan cities from a girl's perspective in a different types of projects on the ground. And this methodology, the Her City, comes from a long-term experience that UN Habitat has on public space planning with the involvement of a lot of different stakeholders. So we will first have Joy respond to the question of community participation in public space planning and design as a non-traditional learning opportunity for urban population. So she will give us an overview and understanding, first of all, of what is the Godan Art Center and how the Godan Art Center has been engaging with UN Habitat through the use of the Her City, and how is this serving the bigger project of the Godan Art Center and the bigger vision that the center has. But before that, I have mentioned that this collaboration builds on our experience, long-term experience globally with the public space program, UN Habitat Public Space Program. And we have a very, very short video that I hope our technicians will be able to play now. Can I have a confirmation that the video is ready to, the first video is ready to be played? So maybe that's gonna take some time. So I suggest in the meantime, no, it's coming, but we don't see it on the screen. Great. We couldn't see the beginning, but I'm glad the video was played properly to introduce the public space approach to better urban environments and more functional cities. Joy, the floor is yours. Please tell us about the Godan Art Center and your collaboration with UN Habitat.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Raphael, and good morning to everyone. And I hope that our slides can be queued up so that we can share with some visuals. But as that is happening, if I can just introduce the Godan very quickly. We are an art center that is a public interest cultural organization. We've been in full operation since 2003, so we're not very young. We are a cultural institution, so we work in the creative economy, which means that we promote the development of arts and culture in the city. But of course, in the process of doing this and in the process of engaging and living in the city, we have found that we actually should have and can have a bigger interest in how our work intersects with a sustainable Nairobi. And so the project that my colleagues and I will be sharing with you today is really an aspect of a 10-year journey that we have had in trying to locate ourselves as a relevant cultural institution within Nairobi, and how to do that by being very cognizant of the issues and the challenges of the city, but also the opportunities that this presents and how we might approach them through the lens of culture. So with UN Habitat, we have had a relationship for over 10 years. And actually together we have explored a number of different things. One of them, of course, is primarily this question of public space, and this question of how you can bring in multiple stakeholders to look at an issue so that you have a holistic approach to design and to solution finding. So I don't know whether the slides are up because I can't see them. Are they up?
I don't know because I can't see them either.
Okay.
So that's a little tricky.
I don't see them.
Hi, Naomi.
Okay, so I wonder whether we can share them then. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, that's it. Brilliant. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So the project we're going to talk about, of course, is the Go Down Her City, Her Streets project. And thank you for giving us an opportunity to share it across three of us, because each one of us has a particular experience and injection to make. Bogwa and Rehema will speak very specifically about the project, about its process, and about the experience of community participation as a learning opportunity. But I will speak a little bit more generally about the city and just some things that stem from this process that we are noticing. And just to emphasize that our interest, of course, as an art center in the affairs of the city, really stem from this question of how does the built environment and cultural infrastructure in particular sit in a city in a way that is contributing to the city's resilience and the city's sustainability. So if we can have the next slide, please, where I can just give a very quick overview of the city. So Nairobi, of course, is the capital city of Kenya. It's a young city. Its beginnings from the turn of the 19th century under the British colonial rule. The city's population, of course, has been swelling each year. And currently we have a population of probably about 4.5 million in the city. And of course, what drives people to the city is seen as a place of opportunity, a place for work, and particularly young people coming in from the peri-urban areas and the rural environment. So this city has various faces. I think that for those who visit the city and interact with it, probably just at the level of the CBD, you're probably seeing a formal presence of government and formal businesses. And if you're walking in some of the neighborhoods of Nairobi, you're seeing formalized social and cultural amenities, housing and shopping centers and places of worship and recreation that legitimately, and I put that in quotation marks, exist. But at the same time, there is another side of the city, and I think that those three coins can show that. So a map of the city, and then the face of the city that is the formal city, but the face of the city that is the informal city. And this is really the sprawl, the uncontrolled, informal side of the city that is the result of the populations that are coming into the city each year to try and see how they can eke an existence and a livelihood in Nairobi. And this informal part of the city actually comprises the larger percentage of city life. So this rapid urbanization, that we're experiencing and the changing lifestyles that come with them as a result, of course, present challenges. And so the question is, how does a city remain resilient in the middle of this? Where can it draw lessons from? Where can it find solutions from? Who can the city work with to address these problems and to leverage opportunities as well? And so for us, the city is a cultural proposition, but the city is also an opportunity for community, the city residents, to be key actors and key players in finding solutions. So if we move to the next slide. So for us at the Go Down, we believe that the lay population, ordinary citizens, can and should play a role in the development of the city. Citizen participation is for us a vital component of good governance and essential in delivering the kind of resilience and the kind of livable, sustainable environments that I think we're all striving for. And I think over the period of our existence and presence in the city, we have used various methods to learn with and learn from the citizens of Nairobi in our work. I'll just very quickly cite one, because we're a cultural institution. Festivals and these sorts of frameworks of engaging people have been a key way for us to learn with and learn from the city. And so we've used a festival framework over a long period of time, each year an annual framework that has helped us to understand with the citizens the disparities to access to public space across Nairobi neighborhoods, the kind of degradation that you're seeing in the city, the pollution of the rivers that are in Nairobi, because Nairobi is a very wet area, and you wouldn't know this. But of course, also the richness of the cultures across the neighborhoods, and the possibilities and the potential of harnessing this. So we do really believe that citizens are a reservoir of knowledge and capacity. Now, when we come to the next project, which is the principal lens, that the slide that you're seeing there, this is the Her City Toolkit that, of course, works with women and young girls as the primary actor for picking up lessons, for learning, for observing, for making recommendations, for finding solutions. And this is a tool that, of course, we have worked with and we are working with, and which Mbogwa and Rehema will give a little bit more insight about. But what I will say is that one of the things that we're seeing around this process is just how by focalizing, by having a principal group through which all of the other actors can react and reference, you have a very interesting learning tool. So in our previous work, our principal tool, of course, has been culture. But in this work, our principal tool, our principal lens is gender. And we're finding that this is actually a very interesting way of beginning to see how to learn across many different actors. And I'll go to the next slide, my last slide, kindly. If we can share that. If we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, as we wait to move to that slide. I think what we're finding is that the women and the girls in themselves and the group that we have are also diverse. So working through the gender lens does not mean that you're not engaging the experience of a diversity of people. The women that we're working with represent people who are business women on the street vendors, residents from the neighborhoods, students from the surrounding universities, and each one of them brings and comes with a specific insight and experience. And what we're finding, and this last slide is trying to illustrate that, is that with women, with this group at the center, you find a reference point from which all of the other actors, and these other actors are the formal businesses that are in the neighborhood that Mbogo will describe in a minute, the artist community, of course, that we represent, the residents that live around this area, the technical professionals that we're working with as well, the policymakers and the city authorities, that all of them basically negotiate and make their inputs against the central vision, the central lens that these women and girls have provided. And I think that you will see what some of these ideas that come from them are. But it provides an excellent space and place for negotiating the eventual outcome of what will be designed in the public space that my colleagues will now describe. So I think, Raphael, I will leave it there and leave it to Mbogwa to now go into the detail of what this process is and the tools that we've used and the learnings that are coming out of it. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Joy. I'll just let Mbogwa start right away for the description of the process. Mbogwa?
Thank you very much, Raphael, and thank you very much, Joy, for that introduction. Yeah, so very quickly on the process, if we can go to the next slide, or the slide presentation as it's coming. As Joy mentioned, the Go Down has been engaging with urban issues for the last 10 or so years. And it's been engaging with these urban issues through a commitment for community-centered engagement and participatory processes. And as Joy mentioned as well, the Go Down is a champion for the role of culture in sustainable urban development, as well as nation making. And currently we are engaged in a unique participatory and multi-stakeholder process to transform into a civic scale, public benefit cultural institution. If we can go to the next slide, please. And you can see there, that is our vision for our scale up. This scale up is part of a second phase of growth, where right now we have a property which is about 7,000 square meters of old renovated warehouses, which we have adapted and reused into a cultural hub. But we want to scale up into 25,000 square meters of what you're seeing there, a mixed use, modern public purpose development that caters to culture and community, and that serves as a public space for the neighborhood. Aside from the building, we also want to transform the streets outside this building to function as safer and more inclusive public spaces that can accommodate a diversity of shared commercial, social, and cultural activities. And to transform those streets, we have partnered with UN Habitat to use their Her City Toolkit. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Now the Her City Toolkit, as Joy mentioned, involves a participation of different stakeholders, but in particular, a primary stakeholder group composed of women and girls. And this primary stakeholder group for our process, our City as Streets initiative, is a group of about 30 women and girls who have been directly responsible for making observations on the streets and gathering the data, as well as suggesting proposals about how they would improve the two streets. This has been a learning process for us, for all involved, the go down, as well as the stakeholders and all the participants, as you'll hear later from Rehema. Because number one, there's a diversity, even within the primary group, that, as Joy said, even though they are from one gender, there's still a diversity in terms of age, in terms of socioeconomic background and other things. And the advantage of the HACITY toolkit is that there are numerous tools that can be picked and adapted to fit into different contexts. So this slide is an example of some of the tools that we have used. The top three images show the primary group on the streets, observing the streets and making inputs onto a questionnaire. Some are using their phones. However, others, as you can see, are using printed questionnaires. And that was, again, an adaptation where there is a digital literacy gap between the members. Some are more conversant with using phones, of course, the younger ones as well. Others also have a challenge of not having access to a smartphone. So in order to adapt to that, we also now went analog and printed the questionnaire so that it could be an inclusive process where everybody feels that they can participate actively. At the same time, at the bottom, we did an exercise with our local public primary school, just down the road from the go down, where about 30 pupils of between 10 years old to 15 years old did an exploratory walk from their school to the go down, making observations using the questionnaire. But after the questionnaire, we asked them if they can paint a mural on the wall about what they would like to see. Now that they've walked the street and they've looked at the challenges, what would they like to see? And you can see an image at the bottom right there. Maybe we can move to the next slide. So going back to the primary group of stakeholders, we also went through a number of visioning and ideation exercises where they came up with lists of things they would like to see on the streets, how they would like to improve the streets. And you can see in the top left, that's a list of conventional things that the streets are missing: street lights, zebra crossings, lots of greenery, shade and seating. And at the bottom right in green, you can see some of the more interesting and fantastical ideas: an orchard, an underground metro, a free clinic, a free Wi-Fi, a green energy generator. And I think this dichotomy or two different types of lists is very important because it shows some of the quick wins that can be achieved, but also some of the things that are more aspirational. And the HACITY toolkit in particular uses one very fantastic tool, which is a Minecraft game, as a digital participatory tool. And for our process, the primary group went in and modeled what they would like to see on the two streets. So you can see the images, the two images at the top. There's a small pocket park with trees and flowers and seating and a small pond there. And at the bottom, more fantastical ideas of a labyrinth at the bottom left, and some art installation, climbing wall, and lots of color on the bottom right. And so I think that this idea of putting the primary group front and center is very important. And if we can move to the next slide. And it was important that we went first to the users of the street before going now to the technical professionals, who also did the assessments and also now, based on the feedback from the users and the proposals from the users, have started now converting those proposals into technical designs. Now that has been an interesting process because they have had to unlearn and relearn a number of things that go on with their profession. And one of those things is that I don't think we are trained as urban professionals to put users' viewpoints front and center. We tend to use concepts and theories rather than user experience. And so we, as the Go Down, have about twice told them, no, you have to go back to the drawing board. So it's been a process with the technical professionals of learning that actually this is a different way of doing things, and the users have to come front and center. If we can go to the next slide. And where we are in the process of our City initiative is that now that we are confident that the technical professionals have translated the proposals of the users, we are now want to go back to the stakeholders, to the users, and present to them the formal design through a validation process. And particularly for us, we are very keen that that validation process is inclusive, that anyone, regardless of the ability to read technical drawings, can understand what those proposals are saying. And so this image is a good one that illustrates, that we used to illustrate what we would like the technical professionals to produce. This is an image from another project where it's a proposal for a bus rapid transit system through the heart of the CBD in Nairobi. And you can see it's a combination of photographs as well as 3D imagery. And I think that was a challenge we put forth to our technical committee, that they should develop the skills to communicate complex technical information with the general public in order to ensure the adoption, acceptance, and mainstreaming of some of the ideas that we are proposing. So we are about to begin the validation process ourselves, and we are optimistic that it will yield a successful project and get us to the implementation where we can use this as a showcase for what is possible in terms of public space, but also in terms of participation, strong participation of women, girls, and users.
عشان هيك ارتأت بلدية نابلس بالتعاون مع فريق مشروع حياة تعزيز الإنارة في أحد أحياء البلدة القديمة عشان يقدروا الناس بشكل عام يتحركوا بأمان، تحديداً النساء.
بس هلأ صارت الطريق مضوية وصرنا نقدر أنا وولادي نروح بأي وقت وإحنا مرتاحين ومطمنين بدون ما نقلق إنه حدا يتعرض لهم.
مهم تتوفر الإضاءة الجيدة في كل الأماكن العامة، سواء الشوارع، الأرصفة، الملاعب، الحدائق، الأسواق، مجمعات التاكسيات أو أي أماكن عامة تانية موجودة في المدينة.
Urbanization brings enormous challenges, not in least in terms of inequality. When cities are poorly planned, it is often followed by widening gaps between urban centers and the outskirts, and between different groups in the society. In fact, women and girls are particularly vulnerable in the light of rapid urbanization. For this reason, it is so important to include girls and young women in the decision-making processes regarding urban development.
In 2016, we started an initiative called Urban Girls Movement. We really tried to provide a method for girls to work together with the professionals in redesigning their cities.
So we saw that the presence of young girls in the public space in Fittja, and in particular the central parts, was limited. And that was due to a feeling of unsafety, but also to the fact that there is an open drug scene in the area. So we saw that Fittja was a particular priority when it comes to listening to young girls and making their voices heard.
The project started out with us going for a walk in the area and talking about how they made us feel and how certain places made us feel unsafe and what we would like to improve, such as brighter lights, more colors, or just places that we can sit so we're able to hang out with friends and also make people stay at Infitia. So it's just not a place that we pass by. And it ended up with Minecraft that helped us visualize our ideas.
After that, we prioritize what is most important to actually change and build according to these girls. And then they deliver these proposals to their local leaders.
Urban Girls Movements inspired us by highlighting the need of shape and colors that turns a public place into a living room. Visible here from Regnbågsparken, the Park of the Rainbow, where we stand, is a proof that you can take back a public space that's been occupied by criminals back to the local residents.
In Botkyrka, we have had a lot of different working methods to include our inhabitants, but the Urban Girls Movement had helped us to develop them further and with a broader perspective, so we can change the structure for real.
After the project, I would say I've seen differences in general, such as like brighter colors, more lighting, and like in general, more people just playing in the local area. And that's been a very good impact from the project.
After we did the pilot here in Fittja, the next step was digitizing for global scaling. The toolbox consists of 9 blocks, representing the 3 phases of urban development processes. The toolbox provides a clear guideline on how to carry out the project, while still allowing flexibility and context sensitivity. The platform was launched on International Women's Day in 2021 and is used in 280 cities in 90 countries. Her city team is currently supporting 10 flagship projects around the world, the first one taking place in South Africa, Johannesburg.
Poverty is not just about the lack of money, it's the lack of information, opportunity and choice. And in an impoverished township like Diepsloot, it's also the lack of having a voice or being able to fix what you see is wrong. So at first the girls said that there were challenges with gender-based violence, with teenage pregnancy, drug and alcohol abuse, gangsterism. But when we went on the exploratory walk, it was interesting to see how angry they got about water running down the street, sewage overflowing, children having nowhere to play. And I can't wait to see when the tactical urbanism plays out and they see that they are empowered to actually make a change and that their visions can become a reality.
Cities can only be of service to its people when planned from the lens of its most vulnerable inhabitants.
I would like to see my point being seen and my dreams being visualized, because I dream for Diepsloot to be a better place, and I believe that with my help we could be a better place.
Great. I think it complements really well what Joy and Buhua already presented to us. Rehema, tell us, how did you learn through the use of that methodology in your area? How did that empower you?
Hi, everyone. Okay, if we could go back to the slides that were being presented. Thank you. I'll just talk about 4 lessons that were outstanding. There were very many, but just 4 because of time. It was very inclusive and diverse. This was mentioned by Joy and Bukwa. Just, from the age, we were incorporating girls as young as 11 years, that's primary school, as old as above 65, I think. So that's a really huge age gap. They were all incorporated into one process, interacting together using the same tools. Then the gender, we had a few boys, but well, the focus was actually just girls and women. And then the social class, we had people from all divides, the level of education. So we'd have primary school kids, university students, guys who've never gone to university. You had Joy saying street vendors, students, residents, and technical professionals all in one place, all taking part in this um, participatory process. It was also inclusive because everyone had a chance to learn and act at their own pace. So if you felt like you could not handle using a phone or a laptop, someone was always there to help you. We were not kicked out. No one was kicked out and told, okay, you can't do this because we're sorry. We're moving fast. No, we always slowed down and, took everyone at their own pace. Then the next one was active learning. So that's my next slide. It was very active in the sense that we were using 3D tools and visual learning. So everything that we used was, you could actually see and you could relate really well with it. So for example, at the method kit level, we were writing on I think they were sticky notes, so they are called post-its, I think. So you'd write what you wanted to see. So if your crazy idea was you wanted to see a chocolate fountain, you literally wrote it, then stuck it up a wall, and you constantly see it. Just being able to see it every other time that you looked up or you looked around. You are both involved. It's very active. It's very involving. So in that, in the first slide, still at the first slide, that inclusive, you could see girls are writing down. You are told, okay, let's go to pick data. This is not just one of the methods of collecting data is questionnaires. No, we actually did it. And that's the difference between conventional learning and this kind of learning, which I found was very engaging. Then to my third slide, if we could move on, 2 slides later or forward. Yes, that was about active learning. And to the next slide, I'll talk about how easy it is to apply the skills and the knowledge that we had gotten from that entire process. So it took, let's say, 10 months before we were given our certificates. But in those 10 months, I could really see a difference between me starting and me finishing. I started noticing right from the word go. Oh, okay, so the street next to our house lacks A, B, C, and D. Okay, so yeah, I have noticed there's not good lighting. What can we do about it? Or what can I, as an individual who has gone through this process, do about it? Just collecting people. I even started thinking, okay, I can actually call on my neighbors and start telling them, okay, there's a little trash here and there, or we lack perfect lighting, or this and this is not there. What can we do to improve it? So it's not just you learn and then just leave it over there. It's really, really easy to apply it outside. And it's not just to the streets because we are focusing on the streets. That's why it was dubbed Her City, Her Streets. It was with everything else. Every public space that I'm visiting, I'm finding myself asking myself, okay, is this the best we can do in this space as a society? Can we improve it? It's constant thinking and trying to look for ways of improving the society around. Then on to my last slide. If you can move on 2 slides forward again. So there's the next one, the next slide. Thank you. That one. So it's learning beyond. It's not just you learn and you finished over there. It's way beyond. So it's equipping you with methods and ways that you can change and be of value to the society. So I find myself constantly asking, what can I do to improve the space around me? And the space around me means outside my door at home, outside my estate, outside my workplace. It's not just where I am. It's literally beyond that. And it really does make you think in a broad manner. So you're covering, it makes you think, okay, so there's this group of people who act like this. Okay, can we work together? It's making you think, okay, can we actually come together as a society, improve the place around us? Then it has made me know that my idea matter and my voice can be heard and should be heard. Constantly, just like what has been done before. It's always, oh, there's a road that's being built. Okay, it will be built. Then 2 months or 2 years down the line, it's been built. Did what you wanted be implemented? No, no one really listened to you. You guys kept on saying, okay, we actually need a zebra crossing right here. But it will just be passed. But now this time around, I actually felt like, oh, someone wants my input. Someone wants to hear what I have to say. And if everyone is given that voice and that chance to be heard, how much better can our environment be? I can't wait to get to that level, honestly. And then responding to actual needs. So we're not just building and designing and implementing things that can be done. We are actually responding to needs that are very, very important. And then shifting of perspective. So again, it's going back to thinking beyond yourself and thinking beyond just the people around you, and start thinking about beyond, and how much impact can I have in whatever I do, literally. So thank you. I'll hand it over back to Raphael.
Well, thanks a lot, Rehema, for this very thorough analysis of the learning benefits from this process. Thank you so much. It's very useful. We're running a little bit late, so let me jump directly to our next intervention from Dr. Ye-Yoon Kim from the Seoul Metropolitan Institute for Lifelong Learning. The intervention is about the community participation in public learning space design and learner initiative program. We will look at the Modu School from the Seoul Metropolitan Institute for Lifelong Education in Korea. Dr. Kim, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Haeung Kim. Slide, please. Okay. I am Dr. Haeung Kim. I'm in a police training team. I'm in a police training team leadership position at Seoul Metropolitan Institute for Lifelong Education in South Korea. First of all, thank you for sharing the Go Down Art Stand case in Nairobi. It was very impressive. I would like to begin with introducing the Seoul Metropolitan Institute for Lifelong Education, which is a public foundation established by Seoul Metropolitan Government. It's an institution that serves as a hub to promote the lifelong education policy of the city of Seoul. Now you can see vision, goals, and project of our institution in this page. There are Seoul Open City. Our institution particularly operates 3 schools to create the learning city of Seoul. There are Seoul Open City University, Modu School, a community learning center within walking distance. Today, I would like to share the case of Modu School with you. The motto of Modu School is a place where residents can have independent learning experience to become the autonomous citizen. The space where Modu School is located was where a school shut down. After the old Hanul Middle School was replaced, the City of Seoul decided to remodel the school building left behind to transform into a lifelong learning center. Under the motto of active engagement and collaboration with residents, we planned workshops for resident participation so that they can proactively engage in the process, starting from remodeling. Various groups of residents, city officials, and local experts attended a total of 9 workshops, and their opinions from the workshop were diverse. For instance, a studio for video and music editing and a wide deck where people can hold a market in the garden on the first floor. In consequence, the blueprint was revised and finalized, applying the residents' ideas and feedback. The program planned and implemented Modu School is Learner Initiative. Also, the program is called Ensemble Project Power, as the residents lead their projects. For example, there are a project to learn the history of the world while cooking food from all over the world, and the other where children can understand the space through space exploration activities. So I'd like to share their stories through the video. Video play, please. No.
내가 사는 집을 만들기 위해서는 제가 처음부터 끝까지 관여를 하잖아요. 근데 그런 과정을 저희는 경험했다는 거죠. 모든 사람들이 좀 참여해서 이 설계를 어떻게 변경할 건지 발표하는 자리를 했었던 기억이 납니다. 그런 과정이 있으면서 아, 여기는 진짜 우리 모두의 공간이고 나의 공간이 될 수 있겠구나. 내가 정말 이 집의 주인이 됐구나 하는 이런 확신이 들었고요. 우리의 공간으로서 주민의 공간으로 재탄생했다. 예, 저는 그렇게 생각하고 있습니다.
모두 학교에서 어떤 워크숍을 열어서 시민들과 함께 우리가 일전에 경험했었던 누가 누구를 일방적으로 가르치고 가르침을 받는 시스템이 아니라 어떤 배움을 함께 펼쳐놓고 같이 맛있게 나눠 먹는 그런 자리였던 것 같아요. 그래서 디자인이 놀이터가 될 수도 있고 진짜로 대화를 나눌 수 있는 매체가 될 수 있구나라는 걸 시민분들이랑 같이 많이 확인했었던 것 같아요. 저희들도 굉장히 커다란 에너지를 얻고 또 새로운 공간으로 나아갈 수 있는 문을 열었던 계기였던 것 같습니다.
모두 학교가 아주 내가 은퇴하자마자 딱 맞아 떨어져가지고 여러 가지 했어요. 첫해 1918년에 생겼던 꽃할배 놀이터에서부터 창극 노래 부르기 근래에 한 것이 그 보드 게임을 가지고 상대방하고 이제 경쟁하는 거. 약간 참여해서 뭘 만들어 보고 또 시행착오가 있으면 뭐 고쳐보는 옛날에 해보지 못했던 새로운 그런 경험을 이제 해가지고 머리가 좀 산뜻해졌어.
Thank you. Modu from the name of Modu School is Korean. The dictionary defined Modu as including everyone or everything in English. Modu School is power for inclusion and for everyone. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, very much for this very interesting experience. I would like now, and I'm rushing a little bit because I want to make sure that all our speakers will have time to make their presentation. I would like to give the floor to Saha from UCLG. We are now moving a little bit towards looking at national agendas and policies, but particularly Sarah will talk to us about the localization of SDGs and the learning processes around this. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much and welcome everybody. I brought also a small video. If it's possible, I shared the link, if you can play it. If not, let me know, please.
I suggest that maybe you can start, Sarah, as we look for the
Okay,
video.
good. No problem, I will start. So, my name is Sarah Höflich and I'm the director of UCLG Learning. So UCLG stands for United Cities and Local Governments, and we are the largest.
Sarah,
yeah.
I think your video is playing from what I can see.
People over the age of 15 in the world who can't read or write. 2 out of 3 of them are women. Local governments, because they are close to the people, are able to respond to their needs and contribute to create equal educational opportunities. They work to ensure that facilities are ideal for learning and community life. They develop programs to decrease school dropout rates and promote educational success. They support families and teaching staff in their educational work. They offer personal and collective development activities outside of the classroom. They work with businesses to increase employability and community development. They promote the adoption of sustainable lifestyles and provide education in values. Local governments work with educators and administrations to ensure adequate resources and to improve education. In all these ways, local governments contribute to achieve Sustainable Development Goal 4, ensure inclusive and quality education for all, and promote lifelong learning. How is your city contributing to SDG 4? Share your experience with us.
Yeah, thank you very much for making this possible. And I think the city of Seoul in the intervention just given has been a wonderful example of exactly this story around SDG 4, but also around investing in education and innovating education. So I'm Sarah Höflich. I'm here the director of UCLG Learning. So UCLG stands for United Cities and Local Government, and we are the largest organization of governments, of local and regional governments, and we usually are the voice also in the United Nations representing them. So that's why a lot of our work is related to the global agendas, and I will now come to this. So I think what we have seen here from the other speakers, we can say that a city that learns is better prepared for the transformation of their spaces and of the communities towards the economic, environmental, and social sustainability of the global agendas. So Joy, for example, said very well that the city is a reservoir of knowledge and of practices. Then we listened to this wonderful cultural arts project and the Her City project to practices of public spaces within and by community stakeholders, as just shown by Rahima Kabera. But the transformation process is not limited to communities and stakeholder organizations. I think also the administrations need to learn. So that's a little bit what I will say here. What is the role of local government and how can this, all what we have seen, connect to their daily work? So not only leaders, but also the civil servants need to know when, why, and how to engage their communities or also the task. They need to capitalize the tools and therefore use digital assessment. As we see, is not only applying, but also how do we get this on a long term become useful for administration. So for example, the tool of Minecraft is a very, very interesting tool, but the difficulty is how can we make this communication that it makes up with the community a longer term administration tool as well. So here engaging citizens and the administration learn first updating technically, so they have the technical knowledge requirement. And again, here the City of Seoul is a wonderful example, how they train their own officers constantly through courses and training. But they also engage them in a deeper process to be ready to learn with local communities and administration. I think Mr. Mbunga said that urban planners and officers need to learn and to unlearn. So this is a little bit what we also see when we come to how do cities learn, and how can we as UCLG, as a global organization, help that this capacity is built up. So the first point here is that we deal with very busy people, or people who are used to work not used to work in new formats. For example, African administration, we very often listen that they don't have digital skills, they are a little bit afraid, connecting too much with the community on their expectations. So all this learning also is adult learning, and the administration also need to learn by doing or in creative ways, like Seoul has just shown. So, but they need to learn along their own experience and their own task. So we are here in a Congress on adult education and lifelong learning, and in UCLG, what we do is we help our members to support and facilitate practical learning with peers, because we know that peer learning is the most effective way how administration undergo change. So they will meet their peers that have similar processes or similar challenges, and with the peers find new ways and inspiration to apply immediately the new skills or the new learning methodologies to their work. So we as UCLG, we don't train individual cities or individual stakeholders. We enable city networks, or possibly also association ad hoc city groups or partners. So to support these learning processes with good methodologies, with the links between urban practice and the policy agenda. We also insist that all the work that they are doing is a political work. So it's not only about implementing a project, but do this more as a long-term policy process. For example, on public space, it really makes a difference if we look into it with a longer term. So we in UCLG, we are of course a very proper organization to take these lessons up and to convert them in policies which we can later then use to influence global policy making in the United Nations mainly. And the second point is, for making cities learn, the global agenda is a very important opportunity. Rafaela already mentioned the term localizing. So localizing means to take this global agenda and to look how it works on the ground, how it works with and by local governments. And we have in particular done also their support, and we have developed a lot of learning support and modules around the Sustainable Development Goals and around the Sendai framework. It is mainly because our members requested. They said that peer learning is of course a way how to extract knowledge and how to make knowledge very available, but that they also need to really understand how to do a voluntary local review, why should they do it, how can they engage stakeholders using the global agenda. For example, on the disaster side, I think it's a very, very powerful framework we have, the Sendai framework, and many cities have already aligned their strategy, but anyhow need now capacities, how they get better engaged with the stakeholders, how they make the commitment, how they use indicators, how they work on prevention, for example. So all this requires a lot of support, and we therefore enable our networks and associations to do this. And as shown in the video, it is of course a point that all the education, also education of communities, is not possible by local government alone. So the aspect of multi-governance is very important, and we can say that the local agenda, in particular the SDG agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, have shown more than ever that cities are very interesting, and they provide example, they provide the way of doing, and that's why we we see that their role is more appreciated than ever. And even regional and national governments now start talking about what local governments are doing to get to when they report, for example, internationally. So finally, I would just remind you, we are all in the same boat and we are rowing to the same direction and we share the same objective. And that's why here in my screen, you can see there is an announcement. We will do the Congress in Korea, and we are very excited that we do this in Korea because we know that Korean cities and Korean network are very, very strong in learning, and also they are of course very interesting in their democratic work and in participation and much more. So we will celebrate it and we will there hold a learning forum. So this means with partners, networks, members, we will look very deeply into our learning work, in the methodology, on what we do and what we can do together. So please come and share your experience in our Congress. We are currently doing a stock-taking process. So next Tuesday, we have a session on localizing and another one in July on e-learning. And we hope that we can count on you and you will be in touch so that we can build this enormous agenda, which all together is meaningful. And if we do it all isolated, we have a big, big challenge ahead. So it's another story. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. We have a lot in common. And thank you for really highlighting the role of local governments. So I will turn to the mayor of Yeonsu to give us his perspective and how does lifelong learning is being integrated in the city of Yeonsu in Korea. Please, Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Gonam Seok, and I'm the mayor of Yeonsu City in Korea. First, I am deeply honored and pleased to speak at the 7th International Conference on Adult Education and outcomes of the 5th International Conference on Learning Cities and the Yeonsu Declaration for Learning Cities. We have learned lessons from the COVID-19 crisis and turn it into an opportunity to take a new leap forward beyond simply responding. We have learned that healthy and resilient communities can be achieved through lifelong learning, reaffirming the need for more opportunities for lifelong learning. In 2021, amid the pandemic, Yeonsu City held a discussion with global learning cities to build healthy and resilient cities. In addition, we have established the Asia-Pacific Learning Cities, APLC, a coalition of cities with the will and planning to translate lifelong learning into policy action. APS member cities have been true inspirations for many amid crisis situations. The UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, GNLC, is an international network created to tap into the potential of the cities to advance lifelong learning. And the UNESCO ICSC is a pioneer conference aimed at promoting lifelong learning. The overarching theme of the 5th ICLC, hosted by Yeonsu City last year, was From Emergence to Resilience, Building Healthy and Resilient Cities Through Learning. Under the theme, the conference was organized into 3 main topics. The topics are: 1, understanding health, mental health, and well-being in the context of lifelong learning. 2, strengthening community resilience and learning systems in cities. And 3, transforming cities into spaces for health and well-being. A major outcome of the conference was the Yonsu Declaration for Learning Cities. The Yonsu Declaration suggests future directions for learning cities with the main focus on improving health, well-being, and the city's resilience through the promotion of lifelong learning and calls for action and commitment. I would like to take this opportunity to share the 4 pillars of the implementation of the Yonsu Declaration, which our city has learned from experience. First, develop policies to become a health city. Urban policies should be created for the areas of emergency medical services, rehabilitation, public transportation, housing, and sanitation for citizens, focusing on the health and resilience of the city. In response, Yonsu City has come up with related policy measures such as offering 10% in bonus points for local business butchers on top of what users pay to jumpstart the local economy, prioritizing people aged 75 or older in vaccination programs and allowing vaccination access to immigrants without discrimination. Second, building learning systems for policy implementation. It is necessary to establish a new paradigm of learning for health, raise awareness of its importance, and develop various tools for its implementation. The digital platform, a new learning tool and system of the 21st century, has allowed citizens to obtain reliable health policy information amid a flood of false or inaccurate information that can create confusion and concern. In particular, the system is available in 5 foreign languages to avoid alienating any residents from the service. The counseling and education provided for the elderly and foreigners has significantly supported the stable operation of the system. Third, organize and configure a network of learning resources. The importance of schools, universities, libraries, and other institutions must be renewed in terms of discovering personal and social resources and allowing sustained access to learning. It is essential to utilize various urban spaces as learning spaces and strengthen network cohesion and cooperation to this end. Disaster-resistant village project and balcony concert program performed over 80 times has contributed to creating a health community even under social distancing. Finally, build the foundation of a learning city. A variety of resources and funds should be allocated to lay the foundation for creating a learning city, and its effectiveness should be supported by research and data. The mid to long-term lifelong learning plan established every 5 years and the effectiveness study on citizens participating in lifelong learning have paved the way for the various projects and programs I have shared so far. In summary, a resilient society needs resilient cities, and a resilient city requires lifelong learning. In order to translate into action the commitment of the Yonsu Declaration, Yonsu City will never be complacent and continue to strive for the goal by working with other cities around the world. Thank you for your attention. Let me video.
we won't have time for a discussion session. So I would like to immediately give the floor to our last speaker, Mrs. Lee Yejin, Director of the Lifelong Learning Policy in the Republic of Korea, to talk about the long-term national implementation of lifelong learning city policy in Korea. Thank you so much.
Bonjour. Hi, everyone. I'm Haejin Lee, Director of Lifelong Learning Policy Division, Ministry of Education of South Korea. I'm very pleased to participate in CONFINTEA VII and in this session, and to share with you about the implementation of lifelong learning cities policy in Korea. You'd all agree that we are facing dramatic societal changes, such as a rapidly declining birth rate, aging society, digital transformation, and the changes of our lifestyle caused by COVID-19 pandemic. In these circumstances, human has become more important than ever, and the role of lifelong education is significant to ensure that every individual has the necessary competencies and job skills to respond to various changes they are faced with. Along with this, it might be an important role of lifelong education to empower citizens and provide opportunity to encourage active engagement in their communities. To this, the Ministry of Education has presented the vision of a sustainable lifelong learning society driven by the development of individual and society as a whole. Before I get into the lifelong learning cities policy, I will briefly look at the key indicators of lifelong education in Korea. This graph shows the lifelong learning participation rate. It has gradually increased, and in 2020, 42% of adults aged from 25 to 64 participated in formal, informal, non-formal lifelong learning activities. It is necessary to help more people participate in learning. Also, the participation rate fairly depends on the level of education and income, so the effort to narrow the gap is needed. The COVID-19 resulted in the decrease of participation rate. Thus, the rate in 2021 dropped to about 30%. Can you move to next slide? I think, okay, yeah. This graph indicates the institutions and programs and learners of lifelong education. They are 4,500 and 280,000 programs and 24 million people respectively. Due to COVID-19, the number of programs has decreased by 20% point. Also, the learners has shrank by 20% point. Yeah. These are the lifelong. These are the increase in number of learning cities. Korean government designated cities with adequate foundation for lifelong education as lifelong learning cities to foster adult learners' learning at the local level and promote the sense of learning. As of 2022, 188 cities nationwide are designated, which comprises for 83% of cities. Yeah, next. I will walk you through policy to cultivate the lifelong learning cities. Governance on lifelong learning is related with national government, provincial government, and to local government. and each unit cooperate with each other. These are the policy implementation institutions at the national level and the regional level. They plan and carry out the programs, share the good practices, and cooperate in many ways. Yes, let's look at the history of lifelong learning cities. Government has designated learning cities since 2001, starting with 3 cities. Now 188 cities are learning cities. As a learning cities, it emphasizes on building up infrastructure for learning so as to make learning accessible for everyone, and mobilize and utilize resources in regions such as university and learning centers and learning managers, and collecting the capacity to solve the problem of the community, and fostering inclusive learning cities. For quality control, government introduced the evaluation for designation of learning cities in 2019. It includes incentive for excellent cities and consulting for cities needing improvement. Due to COVID-19, face-to-face learning program has decreased by 60 points in 2021. Rather, online programs has increased by 3 percentage points. As COVID-19 spreads, programs relying on digital media increase and the digital literacy issues emerge. And it is needed to teach digital skills and to reduce the gap between young generation and middle-aged and all elderly people. Also, it has been important to help restore local learning ecosystem by developing local learning cities. Next slide. I would like to introduce the practice of learning cities. Can you move next to slide? I want to share the practice of learning cities which try to overcome the COVID-19. They put priority on preventing the spread of COVID-19. According to the quarantine authorities of a guideline, the community learning centers are closed and many programs are quitted. Instead, digital and remote learning programs were planned and activated. As pointed out before, transition into digital world enables access to learning program despite the pandemic. At the same time, it caused the digital divide in lifelong education. Thus, learning cities, for example, Kimje in Jeollabuk-do, put budget in making specialized training for face-to-face online learning content, developing digital learning and producing infrastructure. And they support linked learning using an online. Under the influence of COVID-19, the necessity of digital learning has increased, as well as the obstacle in the elderly access to digital learning. Not yet, sorry. Okay. About 20 years have passed since the government designated learning cities. The cities made best practices depending on their circumstance, resources, and the needs of learners. They contribute to organizing learning clubs, helping learners learn themselves, and participate in solving problems of their circumstance community, increase the competitiveness of region. The Minister of Education intends to contribute to creating the resilient learning society in which individual regions and countries can grow together through lifelong learning. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for this very enlightening presentation. And again, congratulations to the government of Korea for all your efforts in lifelong learning. So I'm told that we have to leave the session. I wanted to thank all our in the public that I didn't see, but I know you are there in the room. I hope you found interesting the way we started from the community and public space approach at local level, then moved on to the needs for capacity building at the level of local governments, and the importance of providing a wide variety of learning methodologies, materials, and processes, such as the peer learning that was highlighted by Sarah, and all the efforts that UCLG is doing in that sense, and the fantastic experiences from Korea, which are really enlightening and complementing all that we have discussed. Thank you so much for all of you, and I hope to meet you in person sometime somewhere. Have a really good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank
to
you
all
very
the
much.
speakers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks to Korea.
Thank you, bye.
Thanks to the country of Morocco also, and CONFINTEA.
Indeed. Thank you. Bye.